Welcome to Project Grownup. This is a bi-weekly podcast about conquering the phenomenon known as adulthood through hard work, discussion, and most importantly, a lot of laughs. We hope you'll be a part of this project with us. I'm Amy, here with my co-host Danielle.
Hey.
And Alex.
Hello.
This week on Project Grownup, we're talking to serial entrepreneur Heath Armstrong. Heath has interviewed over 100 entrepreneurs and traveled to more than 20 countries. He's used that knowledge to make a hell of a comeback from rock bottom. Now, Heath uses his wisdom to influence thousands of people through his Sweet Ass Affirmations and a constant flow of social inspiration. Heath also hosts his own podcast, Never Stop Peaking, where he inspires people to dig deep into their energy and creativity. Heath Armstrong, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was quite the intro. I think that you might be, if you're sitting around in your undies with one sock on and you've got mineral water bottles everywhere and coloring books and you can't wait for your bubble bath later, then you probably might not be a grown up just yet, but I'm trying.
I
trying
love it.
super hard.
Well, that's what this is all about. It's trying, figuring out the process. So you're on your way. You're on a podcast. Let's talk about it. So you told us that you started this journey of kind of finding your purpose in life during a face down, pants down breakdown. Would you mind telling us a little bit of how that kind of led you to the journey you're on now, being a serial entrepreneur?
Yeah. I think anytime you get in a position where you're completely unaware that you are working a job that you don't really care for to earn money that you definitely don't need in per se for the things you're using it for, to buy things that you certainly don't need to impress people that you don't even like, and you're addicted to a bunch of things to numb you of the lack of this hero's journey or the creativity that's inside of you, or your intuition really that's wanting you to pay attention, but you're just not because you're trading it out for realism or whatever. Then I think you're pretty ripe for a sledgehammer from the universe to the face, to the body, to the AS, to your sweet little private party parts. And it may end up in some sort of situation like face down, pants down on your garage floor. When that happened to me, it wasn't the first of a situation like that. I mean, I'd woken up in random abandoned apartment complexes before. Like I woke up in an apartment that nobody lived in. There was no furniture one time. And I haven't thought about that in a while. That just came in. But I had all my things. Nothing was missing. I don't know how I got there. This is a series of these types of it was just numbing reality. And of course, being in Tennessee, it seemed like a lot of people around were partying hardy all the time, but I was clearly doing it because I was sad. I was depressed. And yeah, I woke up in my garage with my pants pulled down, my face propped up on a wooden step. And I had a bottle of whiskey right there, almost gone. My nose had been bleeding all over the step. My dogs were looking at me through the door like, what the hell is going on? And my car was running in the front yard. Like the ignition was on and the whole yard smelled like fumes. And I was in like a residential neighborhood. This was like, you're supposed to be an adult, right? Like I didn't want to live. And I didn't know who to tell that to because nobody understood, although they did deep down. I think all of us are children. We're born into this world. We come through our mother's magical party wombs. And the world starts piling all these layers on you. Like, don't think that way, or, you can't like that color today. You need to wear this outfit today, or you need to go study this. And then you get texts now and you get billboards and you get people trying to get you to like do spray tans or whatever. Like you can get peer pressured into almost anything or influenced into almost anything. And none of it is really that raw child that you were when you came into this world. So I think a big part of my journey has been like, how do I remove all of these gunky, like toxic, poisonous layers that have taught me who I need to be and rediscover how to be a child again? And in that path, it's really led me to this resolution of what it truly means to be an adult. And that's exciting. That's like being a big kid, but in a more serious way. We're afraid to do it, but that's what I've been doing. And to answer your question more directly, like, when I went through that process, I had a lot of magical people that appeared in my life that sort of initiated things for me. and I can get into some of those stories if you want, but it led me to realizing eventually that there were people out there that were willing to help, even though I was so scared to ask for help. And then I finally got enough courage to ask for help one time, and this woman changed my life. She told me, she basically cut down all my bullshit excuses, told me that if I really wanted to create real change, I had to stop making bullshit excuses and actually start taking action. And then she introduced me to the concept of creating a morning routine to get me away from all the shit that I was doing at night to sort of suppress myself. And she introduced me to a guy who got me into the podcasting world around 2014, which the whole point of that was to, if I wanted a life where I could travel and work for myself and do anything, and I didn't want to work in the concrete construction industry, which is what I was in, I was making $13 an hour in a factory creating concrete receptacles that carried human feces underground. Like I got written up at work because I grabbed the forklift driver's dick because he kept harassing me and calling me gay every day. So it was like this weird push, this thing. And I was like, well, I want to change. I want to get out of this. I want to make changes. And I just started interviewing people who were doing the things that I thought were inspirational. And that was what that kind of started my whole exploratory journey. I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea what it would lead to, but it led to a lot of really crazy things. And I'm honored to be able to be in the position I am to share things with others now. But it feels like the last 5 years have been my entire life. It's hard to remember what happened before.
That's amazing, though. I do want to follow up and ask, so you said that woman kind of gave you the smack in the face that you needed to kind of get your shit together and, start pursuing a real life and trying to actually live instead of numbing everything like you were previously. Did that breakdown that night or what have you, what you just told us about, was that enough to snap you out of it completely, like from the addiction, or was it still like a struggle? Because I feel like some people might hear this and they'll think, oh shit, if I just meet the right person, they'll teach me, they'll knock me around a little bit and then I'll get it together. But I feel like it's important to express, like, was it, still a process? How did you build that self-discipline to actually stick with what you needed to do?
Yeah, no, that was an initial seed of I'm going to die if I don't start making changes. It took me 3 more years until I had another blackout moment where I actually got to the point of meeting her. The face down, let me clarify, in the garage, that was rock bottom moment, the seed. 3 years later, February 13th, 2014 is when I had another rock bottom moment. And that's when she appeared. But I pulled myself down to this oversized jacuzzi tub in my basement that I was living in my 4-bedroom house with all these things that I had collected to help numb me, and it was like none of this stuff that they told me was going to make me happy or anything is doing any good for me. If I rewind back to 2009, I got on an airplane to go interview for a job when I got out of college. And this stranger got on a plane, and I was flying from Nashville to Houston. And this guy gets on a plane and he looks terrifying to me. He's got like brands, his sleeve tattoos, like this huge beard, gauges. Looks terrifying. He looks like a real man. I'm judging people at this point because I was taught I was just not the same person that I am now. I mean, I had ego problems. You have just an asshole in general. I mean, I probably wasn't that bad. I've always had a really sentimental heart. But the way I remember myself was this just awful version of myself. And what I was doing was I was judging this guy for looking different. And I'm thinking like, God, please do not sit next to me, because I had a middle seat open. We do that on a plane. This dude walks up, comes right up to me. He's like, "Can I get in that seat, brother?" And I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, yeah, I let him in. And he ends up asking me where I'm going and what I'm doing. And he smelled so bad, so bad. It was like smell he hadn't showered in a long time. It turns out he hadn't. He asked me where I was going, and I told him, and he was like, "Oh, interesting. So do you love it?" And like, this is when I was just getting into that concrete construction industry. The economy collapsed in 2008. Like, there wasn't a lot of option, and I thought I had to just do whatever I needed to do. And I was like, do I love it? Like, no one had ever asked me that question before about anything that I was pursuing for like a career. It was like I had to do what I had to do to get money. I mean, my mother was a single mom who would always like working 3 jobs, working till 3 a.m. in the restaurants to try to raise us kids and stuff. And I just thought I needed to do my part to bring money in. And turns out he asked me this question. I feel offended. Then he starts poking me, like poking me more about it, making me uncomfortable, not like physically with his finger, but like getting raw with it, like getting real deep with the questions and stuff and making me, and I'm thinking like, who the fuck, like, who are you? Like, why do you care so much? Why are you harassing me? Turns out he was being extradited from Rwanda by the NATO because he'd been in prison for 4 months out there for fighting for gender equality.
Oh my God.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was from the same place in Tennessee that I kind of grew up post sixth grade, came from a middle class, like sort of Christian family, but he never really agreed with all the stuff he was brought up and raised around, and decided that he wanted to be an activist and he wanted to go to Africa at a young age. And he started just blowing my mind with the possibilities. I had never met someone who was like a real Indiana Jones, who had actually gone out and done things. I'd seen people talk about it. I'd seen, YouTube wasn't even really that big back then. I mean, there was some stuff, but it wasn't like the content we have now. Podcasts weren't around really yet at all. And he just changed everything in my perception and was like, he had all these bags of jewelry that he had the mothers who were victims of the genocide make out of paper, but they were like incredible. It was like heavy jewelry that you would thought was a gem. And he would bring them back, sell them to celebrity markets, go back and build out the villages, run water and things like that. It planted this massive seed in me of this thought that there was something more that could be had. And because I didn't have it, I turned to alcohol and consumption and drugs for the next 5 years. Everything you can imagine. But I always thought about this guy because he sent me a book 2 weeks later off that plane that was called No More Mondays, and it was by his dad. And his dad's name is Dan Miller. And Dan Miller is a huge self-help author and artist, essentially, with a massive podcast. He's like in that Dave Ramsey realm, but he's really like not as ego, like maniac, whatever you would call Dave Ramsey. Dan's really cool, actually. He has a podcast called 40 Days to the Work You Love. And I just read this book, and it was this premise like you do not have to suffer Friday and Saturday and Sunday because Monday's coming up like I was. I would make myself suffer. And I would tell everyone, like I'd bring other people down. I'd suck their energy, be like, yeah, but I have to go to work on Mondays. So let's pout Friday and Saturday or whatever. And he sent me that book. And every time I had a really rock bottom moment, I get this flash of this guy's face. Every time it was like, there's something I'm not getting here. There's something that I'm being reminded of. It was almost like he was guardian, like angel, like showing up and reminding me, but there's something I'm not getting. And I'm happy to say that today he's one of my best friends. I reconnected with him in around 2016 or 17. He's in the United States right now. Oddly, he works for Space for Humanity. He's trying to send people to space, which is really cool. And all of those flashes of his face led me to that final point where it was like, dude, this is it. Like, let me sit there, brother. Like, it was this whole replay in my head of that incident. And I was like, oh, I gotta interview people who are doing, like, finding people like him and interview them about their stories, because that story changed everything for me. But instead of not showing people how to do it themselves, like, I got to figure out how they're doing it and then share that information with people as well, which is how I got into podcasting. So that's how it started in 2014. And no, it actually went pretty quick, the transitional process for me, but like 20 or 30 interviews in, I'm meeting all of these people. And Joseph Campbell always talks about, like, when you follow that thing that excites you, 4 things automatically happen. And I never remember all 4 of them, but some of them are like, you put yourself in the path of good luck. You meet the people you want to know. Doors open for you that wouldn't open for anyone else, and doors open for you where they weren't before. That's essentially what they are. I got almost all 4 of them. And I started following that principle, and I had this Hollywood director on, and he was like, dude, chill out about everything like that you freak out about. Every day is a bonus round. Slow down and enjoy something beautiful. That stuck with me really hardcore. And I started making mass transitions with every little thing that I did to talk to people. I started putting it into a system. And then I started applying those systems to my life. And as I did that, things fundamentally started to change. And that's when stuff really started to explode, for sure.
I was going to say, it sounds like the universe was conspiring to change your life in drastic ways. That's an incredible story. Absolutely. So you had all these material things. Did you just start selling them, throwing them away? Like, you lived in 20 plus countries. How were you able to go with all this stuff to just leaving that and moving around? Did you have like, how did you support that? That's a
Yeah.
goal for
I,
me for sure. So I want to
as
hear your
well.
insight.
She needs the scoop.
I didn't live in 20 plus countries. I traveled through sort of, I guess if you're nomading and you're living little bits at a time, you could consider it that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most transformational things that I learned from interviewing people and talking to people was the importance of eliminating distractions physically and mentally. And the physical part was really hard for me. Mentally, that clears out as you shed physical things. And like I said, I had a 4-bedroom house in Kentucky with a hot tub in my bedroom. I had 5 fish tanks.
Wow.
I actually had 1,761 items because I counted this as I got rid of them. I did this game, which I think originally was proposed by the minimalists, cliche, who were from Ohio. They were getting huge PR back then, but I was like, what are they fundamentally teaching? And I had a coach that was also guiding me through like shedding physical belongings. This was right when I started trying to start businesses. So I had 17 different jobs and 3 failed business attempts, real companies, before I actually got stuff to stick. And I say that because I want people to understand that you just don't give up. Like, keep trying things, keep talking to people, keep asking questions. And it's not ever, I mean, sometimes it does happen on the first try for people, but like, it's hard, but it's supposed to be hard because the people that get there, you want to earn it. Like you got to earn it. You have to play with the universe. There's a lot of synchronistic stuff. If you can learn to open your eyes and see all the things and sort of expand your senses through meditative practices and spending a lot of time in nature, then you'll notice that these things do appear. But I basically went the route of making it a game and then making that game public so that I would get more support. So I read this book called 29 Gifts by Cami Walker, and she had a autoimmune disease. I think it was muscular dystrophy. And her story is beautiful. It was just like, she was going through all this chronic pain and it was affecting everything. And to the point where she didn't want to live because all she could feel was pain all the time. And she went through all these therapists and things. And then she finally got to one who was like, let's play around with one of the things that actually increases happiness more than anything else in my adventures and studies I found as well. Random acts of kindness, right? That's also one of the main ways to make abundance with your dharma if you're trying to make amends with karma, as you could say. You could look at that from all sorts of different angles, but random acts of kindness, and that sort of pairs nicely with the idea of getting rid of physical distractions, which could be of value to other people. So you have to ask yourself one principal question, like, does this item contribute absolute value to my life and who I want to become? And when you ask that question, it's really easy to start discerning between the stuff that does and doesn't. And you're going to have all these resistance and procrastination gremlins in your head. Like, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. You need it for this. It makes you happy because of this. You might need it later, blah, blah, blah. But the process, the way that I'm about to share that I did it, actually helps you kind of ease into that and move through it. It's like, just take 30 days on a calendar, pick when you're going to start and end. And on day 1, get rid of one thing, but make sure it's not like chapstick. Like, pick something that actually sort of like plays with your emotions. And then decide, hey, that's digital elimination, which can be incredibly effective for your physical life, mind, and body for sure. I got rid of social media for a year and it changed my life completely. You kind of learn how to bring it back with intent. But if you're talking about physical stuff or digital stuff, whatever it is, you could do actually both simultaneously. Do one physical item and one digital item. That's a cool process. I'm sure it would be pretty badass. But write and keep a journal. So like, what is this one thing I'm getting rid of? And what am I doing with this item? Whether you're throwing it away or donating it or re-gifting it to someone that it could be value to, you're going to see some mass universal stories that come through. And like, the universe is going to play with you in this. Day 2, you get rid of 2 things. Day 3, you get rid of 3 things. Day 4, you get rid of 4 more things. And by the time you get to 30 days, on that 30th day, you're getting rid of 30 more things. but you've ramped yourself up to having no emotional attachment to the stuff you're getting rid of by that point. And you're really good at making a decision as to whether or not it's going to contribute absolute value to your life. That is a really fun game to play. I ended up going to 58 days, something around there, because I had so much more stuff than you can, like, you never realize, like, even these aren't my books, by the way. There's some good ones up there. But like, you know, if I got rid of all those books, that's like day 20 or something. There's like 20 books there if you count it that way. You really have a lot of stuff.
So
blankets, pillows.
It sounds like it's kind of like a whole home makeover. So you're also giving us kind of a mental makeover here. I want to talk a little bit about your Sweet Ass Affirmations. So you're making these affirmations to help destroy bad mood gremlins. Tell us a little bit more about your physical affirmation deck and how'd you kind of come up with that great idea?
Yeah, so on the topic of eliminating distractions, I feel like when we have a focus and we're trying to build who we want to become, it's really important to have your habits every day in alignment with the two things you want to accomplish that day to help move you towards your short-term vision, which is in alignment with your long-term vision, which is in alignment with your core values of who you want to become. If you can run that path, if you can keep everything in alignment and you really know who you want to become, then you focus your attention on your actions in that. There's no doubt that you're going to make massive progress in a really magical direction. What I noticed every day is that if I have that focus, there's always constant distractions being thrown at me from the world. Same thing with like the layers that are piled on you. You get a text message. Your mom says something that really pisses you off or annoys you. Like you see a commercial on an ad or like your YouTube pops up or whatever. The world is built to steal your attention and your energy. It feeds off of you and your energy. I wanted to create something that reminded people of their magic in just a couple seconds, because we don't have long attention spans anymore either. And like, it takes work to read a book. It takes work to watch a 3-hour webinar. What out there, like a perfect example is like a fortune cookie. Like people get excited. What's the mystery of that fortune cookie going to say? Like, or if you all use Oracle decks or tarot readings or whatever, like there are these things that can kind of like really quickly remind you of magic that's surrounding you or who you are, or what excites you. So I just kept I have a lot of different writing trances. I made journaling systems for people that basically put all of the things that I was working through that I learned from other people into a system. And that was cool. And it started working, and it got me over the fear of self-publishing and seeing that I thought nobody was going to read it. And then thousands of people were like reaching out and using it. And it's like, whoa, this is crazy. Like I didn't make any of this stuff up. I just put it in my own words the way that I use it. And it helped open the doors for other people. The affirmations was like, I kept getting dreams and thoughts and meditations. Like, you have to make this deck. I have to make this deck. And I was like, what is an affirmation deck? So I started buying them and looking at them because I'm trying to pay attention to universal signs. And then I start just like crafting my own messages. And I was going through a lot of really hard times in 2017. I lost a business. I did get to a point where it was crazy. Like I created a business out of that transition. I went from $13 an hour in the factory to $100,000 months in sales, not knowing in any way whatsoever how to manage that kind of thing. And then freaking out and realizing that I didn't want to contribute to mass consumerism at all anymore. And then being like weird because I had this business that I didn't really love. And like all these things just started like coming down, and I lost so much. And I got myself back to this fundamental level of like almost having to apply for bankruptcy, which, oh well, like I love the story, like just feeling that pain, because it helped me transition. But I put a lot of that emotion into these cards, and these cards are generally just made to draw whenever you are feeling confused or chaotic or whatever. And it can beast up it's just a simple reminder, very quick reminder. There's some magic in it. There's some wit in it, but it's also sort of made for, I realize a lot of people around me weren't into woo or understanding like universal things, which I totally get because that was me forever. So I was trying to use a language that used a little bit of profanity and wit to bring in the opportunity to think a deep thought. And so that's sort of where it came from. I launched it on Kickstarter in 2018. It did really well. We raised like $10,000 or something. And then it's just been all word of mouth since then. It's been kind of surreal how many of those have gone out. Crazy. But I just finished the second one, and that's going to come out soon. I'm really excited.
Exciting. I saw that it's on Amazon. So that's how you know you made it big.
Yeah, the original deck is on Amazon. Amazon is an interesting devil of a platform, but that's
I'm
a whole other
sure.
story.
So Heath, we know you're filled with energy and creativity, moving around the world, being a successful entrepreneur and operating multiple startups. Where does this creativity and energy come from? It's so easy to get stuck and feel in a rut. So what are some of your natural biohacks for energy and creativity?
I'll give you the main one, and that's go outside and stand with your shoes off on the ground.
Earthing?
Earthing,
Earthing. I've never
yes.
heard it called that.
Oh,
I
that's
haven't either.
Because
my ex
you
called
never heard it called earthing?
I just call
It
it like
makes so much
grounding.
sense.
Yeah, I love
Grounding
that
for
actually.
sure. I've got grounding in this high rise. I'm sleeping on a grounding mat on the bed. In my
Oh,
van,
wow.
I will have a grounding rod. I found that most of my pain and mass inflammation in my body completely went away when I started making sure I ground when I sleep. The thing is, you are not like we're electromagnetic beings, right? And I'm looking at this timer, so I'm going to try to fill this in really quick. But
We can switch to
when
the
you
next one.
yeah, when you stand outside, you can absorb through the bottom of your feet, or if you touch a tree or whatever, 10 times the amount of antioxidants you can get from eating blueberries all day. They're electrons that act as antioxidants in your body. The beautiful thing about antioxidants are they can lend a charge to a free radical. A free radical is basically just a cell that's running around causing chaos because it's not balanced and it's trying to steal a charge from other cells. So the antioxidants can lend that and balance it out, thus removing that chaos, thus removing the inflammation in your body. The fact that we are wearing rubber shoes every day and we're sleeping in houses up off the ground, we're not connected to that earth's surface, you wonder why disease rates and inflammation and all of these crazy autoimmune disorders that we have and depression and suicide are skyrocketing. It wasn't until like the 1930s when that really started to become a hardcore reality for everyone, in the invention of the rubber sole shoe, really. So re-implementing that has been the most important thing for me, for sure, which is why I'm moving into a camper van, which is why I'm going to spend more time in nature, because when you can balance out and detoxify your energy by using the earth to suck it out, which is what we are from, it's not complicated. It's very simple. Then your body really does open up and it clears blockages and it allows you to be more creative. It allows you to feel happiness. And when you're feeling happy and you're not depressed and you're not feeling like you're in pain, that's when you get your best ideas. That's when you have the most fun around people. That's when you identify stuff that is truly valuable to you and spend time with it. That would be the main one if anyone takes it away. Like earth, go outside and earth yourself. Please go swim in the ocean if you're near it. That's one of the best ways. Hug a tree.
So going back to the earthing question, I'm curious to know how that works in negative 40-degree weather with like 5 feet of snow.
Look up Wim Hof. Look up Wim Hof and then implement breath work. That's just another biohack that you can use whenever you want, but that's tough. That's a harsh reality. I mean, I don't think that's a reality for most people, and it's probably
I've
not
lived in
that.
those conditions though, so that's why I ask.
It's not that way all the time, right? But
No.
you going out there and rubbing snow all over your body the risk factor might be a little bit worse than holding out until you can get back into the earthing state. But you could just get a grounding mat. It's indoor. You don't have to go outside like I have. I have one right here. Actually, it's not.
Yeah. So what is a grounding mat?
Yeah,
I haven't heard of this.
If you can.
This right here is really interesting. It rolls out. It's just a pad. You can set it plugs into the ground on your electrical outlet, therefore grounding in Earth's field to you. So if I were to touching this when it's plugged in is the same as me be outside touching the ground with my bare feet. If you take a meter, like what are those things called that electricians use? I don't remember, but you can test the positive and negative like voltage that's going through things.
Yeah.
If you hold voltage when you're not on an earthing mat inside and you touch your TV or your computer, you'll see it go like spike up really high. These are electromagnetic frequencies that are all around us, and those are what cause free radicals to form in your body. Like it is anyone who really wants to get in depth and nerd out on this subject, go to earthing.com. They have a free documentary you can watch. It's really good. There's some pretty
adding
hilarious.
it to my list.
Yeah, like there's definitely like it's the story of the cable guy who figured this out because he was running grounding lines for a cable company, and then how much he got sort of suppressed in like, this is all BS. Like, we're not going to study this for you. He was trying to get a school with a legit lab to do actual tests on patients that had a lot of chronic inflammation and stuff by just hooking them up to grounding to see what would happen. And the documentary is about what happens, and it's pretty amazing. But essentially, if you touch the earthing mat and you're holding the voltage meter that just was running all the EMFs through your body, it completely takes your voltage to zero. So you are able to sleep at a zero voltage, not be damaged by any electromagnetic frequencies that you're touching with your cell phone or your computer or whatever. And when your body does its healing process, most of the time that happens when you're sleeping. So when you're sleeping, that's the most important time you could be connected to the earth. It's why when you go out camping, it's when you swim in the ocean or you sleep, take a nap outside. You could pound 12 beers when you're camping and wake up feeling amazing. You really do. You're like, how do I feel so good? If I did this in my house, I would feel like I'm dying. I'm not saying do that, but it is true. And it's because you're being protected by the Earth's electromagnetic field. So these products are available. I wouldn't buy cheap one. I really do trust. I like the products that the actual company that did the documentary makes. They're kind of pricey. I mean, you can get a 2-pack of these mats for like $70 or something. You can put them under your feet when you're working. You can put them under your computer, and then you can get the bed ones. They're a little bit more pricey, but if you're talking about health, like long term, like I'm so in love with what it's done to my body that I got them for my mother and my father, and because they're not going to do it themselves. Right. And I have had them make comments to me about their sleep being better. And when they don't have it, not being able to sleep as well. And I was sleeping like 3 or 4 hours longer immediately when I got it. And I was worried. I was like, why am I sleeping so much? This can't be good. But then I started transitioning back to like a normal sleep cycle. But I think something was going on where it was like, I had to go through some sort of, I don't know. It was pretty crazy. My sister said the same thing happened to her.
Like, I'm all for it. You just have to restart yourself.
Yeah. I also have sandals called Earth Runners that have a copper coil on the bottom of them. So you can wear sandals outside and still get grounded. Those are really awesome too.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think honestly, that kind of wraps this up perfectly because it is kind of like a restart. And you basically had a restart. You kind of learned to become one with yourself, become one with the universe, which is what it all boils down to for all of us. It's just so many people have problems looking past the superficial things that we're taught, the things we're told, the things that are advertised to us constantly. But honestly, I think you've cracked the code. We all just need to get back to who we truly are as human beings. We've been blessed to be on this earth, to be alive right now, and we need to make the most of it and stay positive. All right, so before we jump into the Q&A, we got to give you about 30 seconds to plug yourself. So let our listeners know where they can find you, what you have going on.
Yeah, so you can find me in the clouds. If you meditate real hard, I might show up. Probably running around naked in a forest, climbing up an apple tree and swinging down into puddles of mud. Might be able to find me in a van, but who knows? What if the hokey pokey really is what it's all about? And heatharmstrong.com will get you all the other places. Ragecreate.com for decks and things like that. And then, of course, at Heathfistpumps on Instagram. Never Stop Peaking podcast. And I got a really cool new podcast coming out too. It's 4-minute power 60-second power affirmations for your creative maniac mind, but they're actually 4 minutes. And I just do that to screw with people.
All right. So before we wrap up, we got to slay that Q&A. This is where we ask our guests some fun rapid-fire questions to end on a light note. So, if your 5-year-old self suddenly found themselves in your current body, what would your first little 5-year-old self do?
Jump in a lake. Because my mother used to throw me in lakes as a baby to get my microbiome up. So I had this like weird thing where I'm like, I'm going to jump in that lake every time I see one.
You're like, I just have to.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. What kind of cult would you like to start? I'm a big fan of out there, crazy science fiction, sci-fi channel. So it can be anything.
Probably a breathwork cult, because I feel like I had an experience with a breathwork cult that changed my entire life, and I almost got sucked into it. But I did this 2-hour breathwork meditation on a platform in Nicaragua with like 75 people. It wasn't really a cult; it was quite beautiful. But before going into it, I had all these physical health problems my whole life, where I couldn't eat spicy food, couldn't drink carbonation, and I couldn't burp. And after the ceremony, like, it was intense. Like, your whole body cripples up. People were screaming. Some people were peeing their pants. Some people were laughing hysterically. If anyone's done breath work, it can get pretty intense, but you can get to the most psychedelic place ever with just your breath. I came out of it, and all of a sudden I can eat like the spiciest food in the world. Legit. I went to like Bulgaria and did like hot pepper tasting, like farm thing. I can drink carbonation and I can burp. So explain that. It's like, I'm sold. This cult sold me, you know. It's like, so.
Does it prevent, or does it help with farting too? Just
I
curious.
don't know.
Danielle.
Yeah.
She's
I
asking
think
for
mine actually might have
personal
gone
reasons.
down because I can burp now. It doesn't all have to come out that way.
So last one, if you could morph 2 animals to make 1 super animal, what 2 animals would you choose and why?
Whoa, that's such a good question. Jeez. I think like a pterodactyl, because I've had a lot of weird pterodactyl and a mountain lion.
Whoa.
Because they,
Oh, that'd be freaky if that thing could fly.
yeah, because I was camping in the Dream Canyon in Colorado with my friend Olivia and my pup Sachi, this pup is magical. But in the middle of the night, it just sounded like this pterodactyl was screaming over and over again. It was the most terrifying thing ever. And Olivia, she's a shaman, like legit, and she's channeling all these weird languages when she sleeps naturally. It's the weirdest. It's so creepy, but also like really intriguing. And she sits up like full, like as soon as it happens, sits up and screams the same sound back. And that freaked me out even more. So I'm like, where's this thing out here? And then she's doing it. Anyway, it comes right up to the tent, starts screaming over and over again. Turns out it's a mountain lion, not a pterodactyl. But I felt the power of both. First mentally with the pterodactyl, and then the physical form with the mountain lion. And so I think if it was a good mountain lion pterodactyl, it could be quite remarkable. It took about 3 minutes. That felt like a couple hours for that thing to go away.
Yeah, just
Screaming
imagine
in your
if like a
face.
half pterodactyl, half lion landed on the roof of your house. Or like if you live in a high rise, just smacked right into your window.
Oh, you see it
Yeah.
out there.
Honestly, it could
Yeah,
probably fly down and pick up full people and just fly off with them.
Oh yeah. It's like, oh look, mini steaks.
It would be some serious energy. I mean, I'm sure the pterodactyl was quite a thing, but I know that a mountain lion or a jaguar or a puma, that, you know, that's the most spiritually worshipped divine animal of South American tribes and probably, I would say, ancient civilizations and other parts of the world as well. Obviously the Sphinx with Egyptians, and the cats just have these really divine, like shadow light personalities. You never know what you're going to get, but they're totally on their own. It's like, yeah, strange.
So the super
cool.
animal is officially a pterodactyl.
Pterodactyl. Oh, I forgot I was supposed to name it. That's good.
Nice, Amy.
I want to give you the opportunity if you have like one, or like pick one affirmation that you really are just feeling, if you want to do that.
So the affirmation is, by giving thanks, I initiate abundance. Through generosity, I spread it around. And in the back of the card, which is like a boost of motivation to the message, it says, when you give thanks, you attract abundance. Focus on what you have, not what you don't. It's not about how many likes you got on your social posts, but about each individual who took the time to engage with your little creative space. They shared a moment with you, and that is fucking beautiful. It's not about the amount of money you still need, but about the ocean of abundance already surrounding you. When you pay attention to what you do have, you realize there is always enough and never too little. The universe provides. When you generously give thanks and share your abundance, you spread joy to all areas of your life.
Join us for new episodes every other week. They'll be dropping Monday, so you can start the week off right as we unravel another chapter of Project Grownup. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a 5-star review, and if you know anyone or you would be great for our PG inspiring stories, send us an email at projgrownup, that's projgrownup @gmail.com.
Hopefully, you found some keys to success in this episode. Cheers to another week of trying to be a grown up. Cheers, ladies.
Cheers!
Cheers, everyone.